You're listening to Keeping It 100 with Mel and Bruce, sponsored by the 100 Black Men of Las Vegas. What they see is what they'll be. I'm Mel Tillar, your host, and I am honored today to have as our guest Congressman Stephen Horsford. Congressman Horsford, welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me back.
Listen, I want to thank you so much for joining us once again. You've been here before. These times that you come on the show are so important for our community. We need to know what's happening in DC, lots going on, and we hear a lot on TV, but it's better to hear those things from someone who is actually from our community. Before we start, let me congratulate you because you were recently selected as the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. We are very honored, very proud of you, and just thrilled that you have risen to this position.
Well, thank you. It's a great opportunity for me to continue to serve. It's a great position for Nevada and the diverse coalition of constituents that I represent. It obviously provides a platform for us to advance important issues that are critical to the African-American community, as well as other communities that we represent. And, you know, it's an honor to be able to serve and to take on the mantle and carry the baton for the next generation of leaders who have helped to lead the Congressional Black Caucus. It's our 51st year, having been founded in 1971 by 13 founders, and now we have 58 members, the largest in our history. Wow. Representing some 70 million constituents throughout the country. So it's an honor and a privilege and a lot of opportunity and responsibility at the same time.
That's extremely impressive. Let's talk about some of the national issues that are happening. I'd like to start with Tennessee, where two young Black legislators, very impressive young men, thoroughly impressed with these young men, thoroughly proud of what they're doing, and they are trying to make a difference. And recently they were expelled from the Tennessee legislature. Please talk to us about that and talk to us about how the Congressional Black Caucus is engaging in that issue.
Well, absolutely. Well, you're right. I'm Representative Justin Jones and Representative Justin Pearson are some of our brightest young leaders, Black leaders, serving in the legislature in Tennessee, because they took up the cause of gun safety following a mass shooting at a Christian school in their state. They called for reforms and participated in a peaceful protest in the legislature, and as a result were brought up for charges to be expelled as duly elected members of that body. They were expelled the same day that action occurred. I led a national call of Black leaders with the Tennessee Black Legislative Caucus, my colleagues with the Congressional Black Caucus, and representatives from the National Caucus of Black Legislators, as well as others, to talk about what we needed to do to support Representative Jones and Representative Pearson. And it's no secret what's happening. This is about a direct assault on our democracy, and it's absolutely about race. There were actually 3 individuals that were brought up for expulsion. The 2 African-American gentlemen who are the youngest Black representatives in Tennessee, and a white woman who herself said the only reason she wasn't expelled is because of the color of her skin. But in addition to that, they're taking away the fundamental right of an elected official to speak on behalf of their constituents. Under the First Amendment speech and debate clause of the Constitution, elected officials have this protected right. We don't always agree with what people have to say under it, but it is a protected right under the Constitution. And yet the Tennessee legislature, led by, in my opinion, extreme MAGA Republicans, punished Representative Jones and Representative Pearson and expelled them. Now, the good news is later today and later this week, I believe both gentlemen will be reappointed by the local municipalities back to their duly elected positions. That's what the Congressional Black Caucus has called for. But it's still something that never should have happened, and there still very well could be legal ramifications from the action that occurred.
Democracy seems to be under attack. It seems to be under extreme attack. Recently, we just heard that the governor of Texas is planning on pardoning an individual who was sentenced after committing murder on a black man who was involved in a Black Lives Matter event. And we're seeing this kind of thing happen all over the country. How is the Congressional Black Caucus involving itself in these kinds of issues?
Well, first, the Black Caucus is known as the conscience of the Congress. Not only do we compel action in the U.S. House of Representatives, working with the executive branch, no matter who is in office, Republican or Democrat, on a number of important issues. Obviously, the Black Caucus has helped to lead some of the most historic legislative achievements, from the Civil Rights Act to the Fair Housing Act to the Voting Rights Act, and so much more. There's nothing of consequence now that happens in the House of Representatives that doesn't have the Congressional Black Caucus a part of it in one way or another. So we recognize the power and the leverage that we have as an organization. Our membership, again, over 58 members across the country, representing every region of the United States, every ideological view, from the far left to moderates to the center. And we've had Black Republicans from time to time join and participate, and we work with Black elected officials regardless. But what I want to say just about this issue is we are actually in the process of convening a national summit on democracy and race in Washington, D.C. in May, where we will bring leaders from all over the country, civil rights organizations, to the Divine Nine, HBCUs, and others, to help, one, all be informed about all of the different ways in which democracy is under attack, talk about the racial implications of some of these attacks on our communities, talk about what we have to do to organize and to win, not an election, but to win on the issues that matter to the American people and to Black Americans specifically. So after that national convening, we will then travel around the United States in our districts, talking with constituents, conducting local and regional town halls on important issues, from voting rights to jobs to housing to healthcare, to make sure that the American people know who is fighting for them, who is standing in the way of the success that we are trying to advance, and what each individual can do to help restore American democracy. We understand that it will be Black America that helps restore democracy at this moment. We recognize that. If no one else does it, Black America will do it. And the Congressional Black Caucus will help lead that effort.
We recently experienced in our nation a seminal event. We had a former president who has been indicted, criminal indictment. How is the Congressional Black Caucus and Democrats particularly, how are you all responding to that?
Responding to
President Trump being indicted. How are you all responding to that?
Well, towards the grand jury deliberations, and when information started to come out and statements were made by the former president that, somehow the district attorney in New York was not not qualified, not responsible, or not conducting this manner in a judicious way. The Congressional Black Caucus issued a statement both defending and upholding the rights of the district attorney, the judicial system, not knowing what at that time, the charges against the former president would be, but recognizing that a grand jury process is a very deliberate process. This is not one that is done by any one individual. In fact, I believe there are 28 jurors that were a part of that grand jury process. And so the point of the matter is, no matter what the former president may say in a social tweet, it doesn't make it reality. What we know is that unfortunately, the former president was involved in illegal actions that right now are being handled through the court system. There are more than one legal issues. And so the Congressional Black Caucus issued a statement, both defending the district attorney, Mr. Bragg, but also reinforcing the fact that no one is above the law, including a former president of the United States, and that the court system should be able to work itself out in a fair and impartial way. And so we're expecting the same thing in Georgia through that process with their local DA and with anything that comes from the special prosecutor with the Department of Justice.
I know your mind is always also on Nevada and also on the local Las Vegas area. What issues are you focused on here at home?
Well, it's great to be here, for Easter week. We're on what's called our district work period. So I love being able to just spend time with constituents, hearing directly from them about the issues that matter most. Over the course of this past district period, we have been spending time visiting a number of our senior centers, focusing on a number of announcements around new housing projects. I participated in a groundbreaking ceremony held in downtown with the U.S. Vets in partnership with Clark County around bringing new housing development to take homeless individuals off of the street and to put them in good, safe, secure housing with opportunities for employment and training, as well as mental therapeutic care to help with any substance abuse or mental health issues that they may be facing. We also spent time at Nellis Air Force Base meeting with the commander and the officials there to talk about some of the military priorities that they have on base, including new dormitories and family housing and childcare. So my job is to always be looking for priorities that I can advance on the federal level to make sure that I know what the needs of my constituents are and that we are advocating on their behalf. Yes, a big part of my job is getting legislation passed at the federal level, but another part is just serving constituents every single day through cases that my staff handle or grants that we announced just this morning. I announced $145,000 grant award to the City of North Las Vegas Police Department for a new wellness program to help address the mental needs of our law enforcement that have a very, very difficult job to do. So these are just some of the activities as a member of Congress, and I'm honored and pleased to be able to do this work every single day on behalf of Nevada's 4th District.
I always appreciate it when you come on our show and you speak to the local audience here and the local citizens here. What message would you like to leave our local folks with today?
Well, I know, look, we've had a difficult time coming out of the pandemic. I'm glad that we're finally turning the corner. I know we've gotten some strong economic news with now over 12.5 million jobs created since the new administration, President Biden, has taken over. Unemployment is at a record low. But even with those good numbers, I know that there are still people that are struggling to make ends meet, whether it's the high cost of rent or food or energy cost. And so one of the things that's important to me is for people to know I want to hear from you. Please contact our office if you have any questions at 702-963-9360. You can also visit my website at horsford.house.gov. Again, that's horsford.house.gov. We have a lot of up-to-date information that we post there, and you can sign up for a regular newsletter to hear updates about the activities that we're doing both in the district as well as in Washington, D.C. Finally, I'm really looking forward in my new committee roles, serving on financial services, which is banking, housing, and insurance, as well as the Armed Services Committee, to continue to advance the priorities that are important right here in Nevada. I know we have had really huge spikes in rent.
Yes.
They're starting to flatten out, which is a good thing. We're working on improving the housing supply and getting more affordable housing built that can meet the needs of everyone, from working families to individuals to seniors. And that will be an ongoing priority for me, but also helping our military. I'm now on the subcommittee for personnel for the Armed Services Committee. So everything under the Department of Defense, from a personnel standpoint, I now have a say in, from the wages to the child care to education to support for spouses to transition into civilian life upon completion of their service, and definitely the connection between active duty and people enrolling in veteran services is a big priority for me. So if there's something that you need, a question that you have, a concern that you'd like to share, please don't hesitate to reach out, contact me. I'm only as good as the folks in our district tell us the needs are, and the better that I know the needs, the better that I can advocate on their behalf.
He's the chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus. He's our Congressman, Stephen Horsford. Congressman Horsford, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Mel, as always. Good to be back on, and all the best to the 100 Black men of Las Vegas for everything that they do in our community. I know that they were at a number of events over the week that I was at, and it was great to see 100 Black men showing up as always. So thank you for what you do.
You've been listening to Keeping It 100 with Mel and Bruce, sponsored by the 100 Black Men of Las Vegas. What they see is what they'll be, and that's Keeping It 100.